Hello and welcome to another Coffee with Developers. Today I'm very happy to have a friend of mine again back here who just dropped kind of a bombshell in the open source market and also in the general contribution market. So without further ado, here's Daniel Stenberg. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad. I'm just I had so much fun doing that curl picture of you when I did the introduction of this one.
That
So
was great. Something happened to my hair since then. I don't know what.
I guess it's the winter thing. Like it's just it starts growing
Must
out.
be. Must be.
So, in case you don't know, Daniel Stenberg is kind of one of the people responsible because you have internet access, which is because he's working on cURL, which is like the library for internet connectivity or like any connectivity, network connectivity to almost all open source projects and open source and also closed source operating systems, right?
Yes, basically, more or less everything that is internet connected has curl somewhere in it.
It's a bit like the FFmpeg of network connectivity. Like everything is reliant on it.
I was looking at getting a new dishwasher just this week, and of course, that dishwasher, of course, has curl in it. Because why shouldn't the new dishwasher has curl?
We just bought the new kitchen last weekend, and one of my favorite things was like this Samsung fridge that is really super expensive and shows you ads on your own fridge.
Right.
And you're like, why would I buy this? What's wrong there?
Probably they got the ads with curl too.
Probably.
Yeah.
So one thing you just announced, and there's a big article on your blog, which we're also going to cross-link, is that you're actually shutting down the bug bounty program for curl for good. You already announced this last year that it's a tricky thing. What was the reason for that? Why stop something that is actually quite useful?
Yeah, and not only useful. I've always been a fan of it, and I thought it has been a great thing to do and a powerful thing to offer as an open source project. It has been a success, and we're counting 87 confirmed CVEs that we have received thanks to the bug bounty setup. So we certainly have had a lot of good reports over the years. But basically, I think at some point in 2024, maybe the second half of 2024, it started slowly to go downhill, and it's and of course it's the rise of the AI chatbots, I guess, mostly that has just taken over, that it has become so easy for everyone to just submit something they think is a security report, and
Mhm.
it, it's easier for everyone to submit something, and it gets harder for us to assess, review, and evaluate whatever it is that is claimed. And
Mhm.
so that has sort of, during 2025, that escalated even more. And actually, starting 2026, in January 2026, it's an even higher rate. So it's sort of all-time high in volume and actually in crap then. So the amount of, or the percentage of this that is actually confirmed, or a real true vulnerability in the end, that share is just shrinking for every new submission. So it's now less than 1 in 20 that is actually real or accurate.
So what's the rest? Somebody asked the chatbot to find a vulnerability. It then hallucinated one, and people just sent that
There,
in.
there's all sorts, but so from the beginning it started really like that. So then it was a lot of hallucinations, completely made up. So they basically, a TV style report. It looks like a valid thing, but when you look at the details, it made up function names. It makes up everything. So in the end, it's just exactly like a TV show. It's not real. Nothing is real. It looks real, maybe at the first glance, but over time, as I think people and the AIs have evolved a little bit, they become more real, but still not vulnerabilities. So a lot of finding, like curl is written in C, right? And it is like, if you ask anyone who knows a little bit about C, what is a vulnerable function in C? Well, maybe the function strcpy, which is a known sort of sensitive function that is easy to mess up and get wrong. And if you ask a chatbot now to find a vulnerability in curl, apparently a lot of them they find then a strcpy used somewhere, and insist that this is insecure and blah, blah, blah. So we get a lot of just made up problems, all sorts of different sort of levels of made up. Some of them are just made up function names. Some of them are just made up problems. And I also get a sense that a lot of people are reporting bugs that the AI actually told them, but they write the report themselves. And I think that because they sort of, the intelligence level have plummeted. They just got so bad that I have no other explanation why the quality has decreased so steeply over during 2025. So
I found that there is kind of like a cottage industry of people that actually become full-time bug bounty hunters. Like I've seen people, I mean, I've seen the same with hackathons, that people just go from hackathon to hackathon with prize money to get the prize money. And I've seen people in some countries that basically just go for every bug bounty program and
yes.
just see it as a secondary income. So they come up with like blueprint reports that don't make any sense and hope that they hit a mark with that. Is that what happened?
Yeah, but I think, I mean, even before this AI trend started, we know that people are doing this full time, right? And that has been a reason to pay, because then you actually attract those sort of the professionals in the area that are actually good at this. They do this all the time in all sorts of projects. So we want to attract the good people, right? The ones who actually are skilled at this and know all the, you know, the protocols and the pitfalls and know in which corners to look for problems. So that's good. But now I think it has become so easy. So of course, I don't really know exactly why this is happening. I just have my theories. And obviously, I think that the money part here, the attraction of the incentive that you might actually get $500, $2,500 or something in the end, that's attraction enough for them to, you know, they ask an AI bot and it gives you something quickly and they can just submit it. It's a very low effort for them. It's just, you know, it's a few minutes probably of just asking, getting a report and just submitting it. And then when we in our end get a reported, you know, that's one of the parts with the AI reports, right? They're really long and elaborate and detailed. So we get, you know, a 500-line report in the morning. And what do we do with that? It sounds real. It might be real. And all from the beginning, at least, I started reading through them. Nowadays, when I've sort of recently, when I got one of these, I basically just don't read it at all. I just start asking follow-up questions to just get a sense for what kind of person this is and what is this actually.
How do other people do it? Do they use AI to pre-filter these things to recognize what has been generated and what hasn't?
But yeah, I know some people insist that they do, but I think one primary problem is that I get a lot of these that aren't necessarily written by the AI. They're written, but I think they're fooled by AI somewhere in the mix. But there's a lot of human author in it too. So it's not really everything is not AI. It's just stupid. So the problem is not really. I mean, the challenge is not only to detect that AI wrote it. The problem is to detect that it is not actually a vulnerability, and detecting that it's not actually vulnerability is actually not that easy to do automated, even though a lot of people then contact me and say that they can do it, of course, on their platform that I should join, but but I don't believe them.
I think that's another problem. There's like so many platforms and like services that are focused for developers, and especially publishers of software, that like, oh, you got to go there and find there. And I think one good thing about bug bounties was like you had a centralized place to actually look where people were submitting things. Where
Yes.
does that happen now, and how do you think that will change the amount of stuff that you will get that is sensible to react to?
Yeah. So yeah, the question is exactly, are we still gonna get reports that sort of when we do mistakes, are people still going to report them, or are we going to ship more insecure software now? But I think we're going to switch to getting all of that handled on GitHub, as we do already issues and pull requests on GitHub. So I think it's close enough, and I think we have documentation and details enough so that people will find that place to submit them when they want to. So ideally, then the sort of the the ones that are only looking for a quick submission and to get that bug bounty money, they will still continue to look at HackerOne and they won't find us. So that's going to be sort of ideally, hopefully, the upside of this. And the ones who actually want to report and submit a genuine vulnerability, they can easily find out where and how, and they can continue to do that.
How was the money? Where was the money from that you paid out in bug bounties? Like, do you have corporate sponsorship? Do you have people that deliberately say we're paying for security reports, or where did it come from?
So we are sponsored by this awesome fund called the Internet Bug Bounty, the IBB. And that is funded then in itself by a lot of big companies, and it's run by HackerOne and a bunch of other companies. So that's been very fortunate for us, right? So we, as an open source project, we don't have 100K USD to just hand out to people, but they do. So we have pretty much run the entire operation around everything that is reported, and once we have said that, sure, this is a vulnerability confirmed, we get a CVE, we publish everything, then IBB steps up or steps in and say, hey, we will give this person this amount of money depending on which severity of the problem.
And they can do the same now for reports on GitHub, or is it just basically there's no way to make money with curl bugs anymore?
I asked them to not do that. So I sort of, since it's not actually my money or our money, I can't tell them how to do it, because they're certainly entitled to give money to whoever they want to. But I've said that I think they shouldn't, and I've said that we won't help anyone to get money for curl, because that would be sort of I want to make sure that we're not going to pay any money, so we're not going to help anyone to get any money either. Even though but because someone else mentioned maybe Microsoft will pay if you find a curl flaw in the Microsoft version that they ship in Windows. And sure, maybe they will, I don't know, but we're not going to help anyone with that goal in mind.
It would also be bad for the relationship that you had with HackerOne, because as you said in your blog post, you had a really good relationship with them. It's just basically the AI slop that comes in that doesn't get filtered. And when you say that it's obviously written by a human and the bug is coming from an AI, that's much harder to filter out than obviously AI written stuff.
Yes. Yeah, and so I think it's sort of all the way, everything from that is clearly written by an AI, all the way over to that we can just possibly suspect is written by an AI, maybe just an extremely stupid person, who knows? But it's all of that, and it's just all of that taken together is just an immense load to handle. And I mean, some of these days I spend the entire day just managing all the HackerOne reports that have arrived, and it's not a position we want to be in, and it's not the load is quite intense. And since there's so few actually confirmed ones, it's not because we have bad code, it's because we get a lot of reports and most of them are unnecessary.
Is there a severity ranking that comes in that you could triage that way, or is it just that people say like every vulnerability that they found, no matter how
everyone
bogus, was like the most severe? Yeah.
They're almost always they're critical or rated high or whatever. Everyone thinks their own finding is really, really important, possibly then also because of the money, right? Since they get more money if it's rated higher.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you see recorded reports about security things on like all the AI stuff right now, on all the platforms, on a lot of CI/CD stuff, behind the scenes attacks. So how is it with the other contributions that you have? When I worked on the Chrome DevTools, for example, I got like 90% spam in like pull requests and issues, and 10% active things that make sense. And most of it was just like people wanted a feature because they wanted a feature and couldn't even come up with a use case for it. Is it the same amount of, do you feel the same amount of overwhelming flooding in there?
No, actually not. I mean, not yet. Not at this moment. Of course, we won't know how it's going to be in the future. But right now, we see barely no AI sort of problematic pull requests, for example. That I think most of them we see are actually genuine human. I shouldn't say that we know that they're written by humans. They're probably assisted by AIs to a degree nowadays, but when the quality is good enough, I don't care. I don't mind because then if you submit a good PR, that's a good PR, however you got it, as long as you sort of have the rights to do it. You didn't copy it from your proprietary employers, but then it's fine. And issue-wise, we get some amount of just abuse, but rarely of these AI slop ones. Mostly, the stupid offending ones. Someone just being rude or doing really weird things. So it's not a big problem. We tend to just close them, delete them, ban those users, and on we go. So it's just a very small amount of issues and pull requests that are actually problematic. It's so much more in the security reports ones.
I guess if you don't have UX, that's the main thing. Like as soon as you have an interface, people have all kind of ideas that they send you that don't make any sense, but it's easier to contribute. I think the sending an issue to cURL is kind of a level for people to say like, oh, I'm not good enough to even bother.
I think that is part of the reason, yes. So there's sort of a threshold that's a pretty high bar that someone has to get over to do it. And also to submit a pull request. If someone would submit a junk pull request, it will just turn all the CI jobs red, and I wouldn't sort of care about it much until it starts to look green. And when it starts to look green, it's getting close to be good. So then it's fine. So pull requests, I'm less concerned about in general.
Although it's interesting to see. I'm kind of very annoyed lately how open source is suffering from the old AI hype. There's so much great stuff that's happening, but the whole idea for me for open source was it was a give and take. I use something, but I also give a report back, or at least a thank you, or at least I list somebody that I used this stuff. But now with AI bots generating code and vibe coding, telling people that code is not important, don't even look at it. Everybody uses our open source stuff, but we don't get any feedback whatsoever anymore. Is this a big threat to the open source model?
I think it is a threat. The size of it, I think, is hard to assess because we're still early on in this. And I think one of the things I think right now is that no one is actually paying for all of this AI, right? So we get to use a lot of AI for nothing, and I don't think that is something we can expect to happen forever. So I think there's going to be some change at some point. But of course, if everyone is going to vibe code their own things based on all the open source it has trained on, maybe we will get less feedback and less bug reports and less pull requests in the future because everyone will try to make their own. That would be unfortunate and really unproductive way of doing things.
Well, and of course, licensing. When you take parts of a code that is like in a license that is, you also have to release it open source. You don't release it open source. When you like 5 abstractions of a code generator in there, nobody's going to complain about this because you're not putting it back to a repo, so people don't even know.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So that's a big confusion point that I have right now, and the whole idea of like humans in the loop. To me, open source was always a thing that I got access to other humans through it. I got reviewers, I got translators, I got people that contributed because I gave things away for free. But now that they don't know that the cURL code came from Daniel and his friends, but it came from Claude, they're not good. They may be thanking Claude for it, but that's about it. Like the whole the tracking back to the original producer, which was the idea of open source, is actually kind of falling apart at the moment.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they don't know. And yeah, that's true. And it's possible that we slow down the feedback loop, right? Because if you vibe code everything from now on and you don't make it open source, then you don't feed it back to improve the future LLMs based on more open source that is even better and so on. So yeah, it's certainly challenges there around code production and how to do everything. But it is also possible, I would imagine, I don't really know this, but that a good chunk of vibe coded stuff or stuff written with these agents and AIs are done using existing components, right? Because you're not going to write everything from the ground up, even when you vibe code things. So you're going to vibe code things that use existing components, and they still need to work, and they still need to be developed and bug fixed and improved.
You listed in your blog post that there's other companies that suffer the same issues, or other projects that suffer the same issues, but fare better on HackerOne. Do you know any of them and how they've done that? Did they have more people reviewing, or what was the solution?
We don't really know, and HackerOne, they don't know either. Basically, I've had this conversation with people at HackerOne, because they're, of course, I think especially when I've been getting so much sort of attention for this move, they're scared that there will be some feelings against HackerOne out of all this. So they've been really concerned about how it would look for them and about them and everything. So they took a look and compared how cURL then compared to other open source projects in the similar style, and it's just based on their data basically that we, for some reason, have gotten much higher load and much more crap than the others, and I don't know why. It's really hard, since I have a hard time to get feedback from all of these people that are actually doing this to us, because when you ask them, then or they get all defensive, of course, because I get upset, and they get upset because they want this to be a security flaw and they want me to pay them a lot of money, and I just ban them and tell them to go away. And usually they first, of course, also they always deny using this AI. That's the sort of the modern way to get away from it. Oh, they found it themselves. They just used the AI to write the report.
Mm-hmm.
which could be true.
Yeah, might be non-native speaker that wants to write an English report or something.
Then it would be fine, right? Because you can't sort of expect that everyone would be good at writing English, or writing a good report might take some time, and maybe you can get help with AI and everything. But when you see then that the report consists of obvious lies and made up things, you start to realize that no, I don't think they found it themselves either. That's just an excuse so that we will take the AI, or rather not see the AI as slop. Just, I don't know. They're tricked by this marketing messaging that the AIs can do this, and the AIs, I mean, they're confidently right? So they say this is a flaw, this is a serious flaw somewhere here in the code, and they report it. It's a courtesy for us. They help us, they think.
Well, there's also a lot of headlines that like finding a bug in like cloud code gives you $1 million and these kind of things. There's lots of these fairy tale stories of like researcher that found a bug and Microsoft gave them a car. So there's a lot of these fake AI headlines as well to actually get people into that market. So it's interesting that it became, as I said, a secondary income for some people. I mean, I have people emailing me about my blog and saying, like, we found a security issue.
Yeah.
Does christianheilmann.com have a bug bounty program? And I'm like, no, I don't even have a toilet roll right now. Like, I'm just Christian Heilmann, and what you found is a security bug in WordPress, not in my website. So it seems to be like there's a lot of like automated, like, send things out, hope it sticks, hope people get something. Of course, cURL is an interesting attack point. Like how much security attacks, or how much pull requests do you have that are basically malware injection attempts? Is this a high rate?
No, I don't think we have any recorded attempt of it, because it's really, really hard. So that's my theory, at least, because I've not. Maybe there has been several and I never found them, but I don't think so. I mean, planting a backdoor like that is really, really difficult. So I think I think if someone would use cURL for something nefarious like that, they would find an existing flaw, which is also very hard, but still easier, because then they don't have to tell anyone. They could just exploit it. And I mean, we've had security problems, and we keep doing that because we keep developing at a high pace. But you're right. I think cURL is a little bit of a target because it's widely used, known. So it sort of, if you get a CVE recorded in your name for curl. It might be some kind of mark on your shirt in the future. So, hey, I found this. So maybe that's good for your career or something. So I think it's a little bit of that. And then, of course, because all the LLMs and everything, they know all curl code. They're very well trained on curl and how to use it and how to do everything.
I mean, you're kind of, we talked about this last time you were on the show, that you're kind of not that dependent on the money that comes in from the curl project. Like the other, there's a lot of people that lately I've seen a lot of posts that people, I'm not doing open source anymore because AI scrapes my stuff and reuses my stuff anyways. And people use my project inside their project when they're web coding, but nobody comes back to my page where I've got ads or where I ask people to contribute money. Do you think that there is a problem that people that want to make money with open source are actually lost in an AI world because they have all these intermediaries that don't report back?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a definite risk or development. And I think it depends on what kind of software you do and where in the stack you are and stuff like that. So it's going to be different to different projects and different people. So, but definitely there's going to be some really big changes to some projects, I'm sure.
I mean, the big one was of course Tailwind, where of course the headlines were interesting as well. Like they sacked 75% of their engineers, which was 3 people. It's a percentage, of course, but it's again, it's an interesting thing to see though. Like somebody that worked in open source as long as we have, there's lots of companies that come up with a solution that is open source and think the way to monetize to put ads on the landing page. And I think that stopped working with like SourceForge, or like it feels like so outdated, you know?
Yeah. Then SourceForge took that idea and put ads on your stuff. Yeah, but you're right. So that's definitely gonna change. Yeah, I guess that is exactly the Tailwind lesson, right? They basically lost a lot of eyeballs because now people generate it with AI instead of reading the docs on their site. So yeah, a lot of business setups and traffic patterns are going to change.
And so far, what can somebody who wants to actually build something cool in open source, how they can defend themselves against it? What have you done to be independent of that kind of income?
It's hard, I guess. I mean, when it comes to monetizing what you do on monetizing open source or your work in open source, there aren't that many different ways, and we're all every project is a little bit unique, so that it's not necessarily one thing works for the other project just because it works for another. So in my case, for example, I'm not dependent on ads at all, so I don't need eyeballs anywhere. I just need, from my case, I need enough businesses to keep using my software so that they are interested to keep paying for support and help, so that they, and so for me it's a little bit interesting to maintain market share or something, use amount of users, but otherwise I'm not at all a business person. That's why I'm in this position. So I'm really bad at providing advice for what people should do when it comes to money and open source, because I'm not very good at it myself from my own place either.
So I mean, you've got commercial supporters of curl that basically pay you money. Like, what do they expect in return? What's the return of investment for them? Is it just that the thing works and that their features get built next, or how does that relation work?
A little bit of all of that. I think what I'm trying to sell some of them is that they should pay some amount to just make sure that curl actually exists still in another 2 years, right? For their own sake, basically, make sure that your own products and development cycle is sustainable even forward a little while. That rarely actually works because very few companies think like that. They think someone else is going to pay anyway, so they don't have to. But otherwise, I think my biggest customers, they think like that. Some of them want to sustain curl so that it actually exist for a long time because they ship products with a very long time. One of my customers have a 10-year support contract to their customers, and curl is part of their product, actually part of their product API even. So they want to support the API for another 10 years. So that they want to make sure that everything works. And I think in their case, they probably would prefer if we didn't do much, just kept it running exactly as it does. So they want to have fixes, possibly for security fixes and everything. And another big part is customers having curl as a, I would say, vital part of their business. So it's very important for them that they don't have curl related issues in their products. So then it becomes more of an insurance thing and support thing. So in case they have a problem, they have me on standby, and I fix their problems faster than they could, much faster than they could themselves, or spend, they don't have to have that expertise or engineering staffing themselves. So if they have curl issues, I help them fix that.
So how is your red bus problem solution there? Like, if you get hit by a red bus tomorrow, who takes over? Do you have fallback people that actually are there, or do we have to put you in an oxygen tent to make sure that you're okay for the next 20 years?
We're a bunch of people that are doing quite a lot of development on curl. So I'm not alone. We don't have any. There's no designated heir after this dictator takes off. So it's but everything is documented, available, open, and there's a process that we're following. A lot of people are involved, so a lot of people know how to do it, know the code, know the architecture, know the setup. So if I would take off, well, ideally I wouldn't do that suddenly, right? So I could just sort of transition slowly. But if I would do it suddenly, everything is out there and it's known. It would be possibly a little bit of a switch over period, because I specifically don't want to decide how to do things when I'm not around, because if I'm not around, I don't think I should make decisions, because then I'm not here anymore. Then someone else should do the decisions. So there's basically someone has to step up. We have a core team in the curl project, which is a set of trusted people that have been around for, I guess, a few decades by now. So there's a group already. So if I would vanish, that group would agree on and set up a process to decide what to do next and how to run the project from that point.
I mean, you started building a community around curl as well. There's like curl up meetups and all kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and I mean, curl has always been more than me. I've always been the captain of the boat, sort of, and I've done a lot of commits. I do less and less of the commits these days, but I still do a lot of development. But I've always had a lot of people around the project who have contributed, helped out, and so, or the long tail of people. But there's also a few that are actually really active and have been really active for a long time. So yes, we have annual developer conferences. It sounds good to say conference, but with sort of group 20 people in a room once a year and talk curl for a weekend. So yeah.
Well, if it's in Sweden and you drink beer, that's the same amount you pay for another conference in another country, right? So that's
exactly. Well, we actually try to do it in a few different countries to attract, to make it easy and hard for different people, different years.
So, are you worried now with the bug bounty program being shuttered that there will be less reports on security issues, and the security of curl might suffer?
I'm not worried about that, but also, no, I'm not worried about that. Strangely enough, because I know I've talked to a few researchers who say that they will still report vulnerabilities if they find them. So I think some people will just do it anyway, even if the money is gone. And I think some of the better ones, the genuine human ones. But then, of course, I don't know how to actually evaluate if we actually, how do we know if we get worse or not? It's not going to be easy to say. I guess if there's a significant drop in CVE reportings, that could be a sign, but not necessarily. So it's really, really hard. That's one of the things we do in the project is how do we ever know if we improve over time or not? And we try to do things in curl that we refactor code, and we try to do things so we reduce the risk of particular mistakes, or particular code patterns should be harder to do because we've seen that kind of pattern caused problems in the past, so we should avoid them in the future, and so on and so on. But at the same time, when people report vulnerabilities in curl, the vulnerabilities tend to be so old that I think the average time they have been in the code when they report them is 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So whatever we do, when they keep reporting that old bugs, how do we know? It's going to take 8 years until we know that the average bug has been found, the average vulnerability. So it's really, really hard to know that whatever we do we actually fix anything? Do we actually improve at the same time as we continue developing a lot and we refactor a lot? So there's a lot of new code all the time. So yeah, it's a hard.
Are there reports on implementations more than the core? Like, do you get like lots of libcurl, for example, reports that are actually not your construction side?
No, well, yes and no. There's a lot of reports that insist that we have problems because if you do this, this happens, and I insist that you shouldn't do that because that's wrong, right? and we have that discussion quite a lot, and it's kind of natural. If you have an API, what exactly is the expectation of that API? What if you pass in this input? What's the library going to do? What if you pass in this instead? And what's the responsibility of the user of the API versus the driver of the API, sort of? And so that's a lot of discussion. So in a lot of discussions, I think the users, they want it to be, well, what if we pass in this crazy thing? And when I try to document it, that it's the responsibility of the caller to make sure that you don't pass in this, because then everything is going to go wrong. And they say, well, if you do this, it's going to go wrong. So then if someone does that, that would actually be a vulnerability in the user of this. So I get a lot of that. So I try to push back. I think actually over the last few years, that's the majority of the security reports is, hey, I can insert this in an input somewhere, and then curl does something crazy. So sort of insert crazy, curl does crazy. Yeah, but don't insert crazy. We tell you that in the documentation. That's your responsibility. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean the amount of times I see like force insecure when people do their curl calls to just make sure that every broken server out there still returns something back is fascinating to me. Now, HTTP got leaps and bounds over the last year. HTTP 2, HTTP 3, we got like all kind of like streaming stuff in HTTP happening as well. Has curl kept up with that, or is it just a browser thing more that actually needs to worry about these kind of things?
Curl keeps up with that too. So yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, and the latest HTTPS DNS resource record. So yeah, there's a lot of that, and a lot of that is actually what we've been doing in curl over the last few years to keep up. And sure, it is actually more of a browser oriented development, but libcurl is a library that is used in a lot of browser-like and even browsers use cases. So you can build a browser with libcurl, and people do that too. So as sort of we tend to say that most users only use 5 or 10% of curl, but most people have their own 5 or 10% of those features, right? So curl can do a crazy amount of protocol things.
I mean, it's fun that like FTP got taken out of browsers and Gopher got taken out lately. I don't see much IRC anymore. It's just incredible how many like network like protocols came out, were in use, and then got out there. I mean, the other day I was talking on the live show. What really ails me is that torrent is such a great idea to transfer huge amount of files to lots and lots of people, but it's
Yeah.
only used in piracy as far as I see it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, and it was never good for streaming either, which I guess is one strong reason why it isn't used for more things, because it's better for random access to the files.
Yeah,
But
if
you're
you
right.
don't know trunk order, yeah, then you cannot stream. Yeah.
Right. But I think there are some stream versions of torrent, at least the same kind of concept. Yeah, but you're right. And also, I mean, we have over the years, we've basically gone to more of a less amount of protocols, right? Since the web and the internet has more or less agreed that everything should be HTTP and stuff over HTTP rather than different protocols. So we don't do FTP or Gopher and a lot of the other protocols much. So everything is HTTP instead.
Well, the size limitations were gone. I mean, back in the days, HTTP headers were actually too small for like large files, and it took ages to transfer them. That's why FTP made more sense. But now that the speeds that we have and the protocols being in several connections at once in HTTP, we don't have that issue any longer.
Right. No, there are many explanations why, but yes, that's still the development that happened.
Cool. So, what could you say to people that actually have fun being a security researcher, especially junior people that actually go out there to get these bug bounties? They're not going to get anything from you anymore right now. There's other people that they can get things.
They're going to get credits and thank yous.
Yeah, but does that help with a career? Does that help with a thing? I mean, you can't go to the butcher and say like, I want to buy some sausage with credits. But where else do these things feature? Like, why should I contribute to open source even as a reporter if I don't get any money for it? Is the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. But I mean, you can also turn around and say, why should you report any bug at all to anything? If money is the driving factor, a lot of things won't happen. So I think people will still do that because it's a vulnerability report like this is just an extended bug report, just that it could have a security impact. So I think people will still do that because they still want to help out. They still want to have their own use of curl and their own apps use of curl to be safe and secure. But when it comes to security reporters in general, and when it comes to AI and everything, I think it's just exactly the same as before. Really, you have to just apply your own intelligence. You just have to verify whatever you intend to report. You can just confirm that it actually is correct. You can actually reproduce the problem that you are about to claim is a problem. I know that is avoiding the shortcut, or it takes away the possibility to do that shortcut, but that shortcut is still an illusion. You can't do the shortcut because the shortcut doesn't actually work. Because
it's a bit like when you only take in outside pull requests if they come with tests. It feels the same way, because like if you haven't validated that the thing that you do is actually working, it shouldn't be up to me as the maintainer of the project to actually do the due diligence of testing that it really does the job.
Exactly. Or if anyone claims anything, how do you just accept that, or do you want it verified too, or a second source or something? And it's the same with the security. You can't just report a security problem with no backup, or you shouldn't do that. I mean, if you do that without having verified your own report, or you be sure that whatever you report is correct, then you're just adding to the problem. And I don't know why people keep doing it. I think they actually think they're right. They actually think that the tools told them the truth. And I get that. At least I get that sense back when people are upset when I get mad at them for doing this. They think they're helping out.
I mean, seeing that you're the only person in charge of curl, can you just admit that this is just a ruse that people want to buy more curl coin? You got more headlines in the press now to actually make more money with them.
And now I can launch my coin finally.
That's a whole different discussion.
That's my blog post for tomorrow.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Daniel. This was putting a bit more insight into that, because I mean there were lots of coverage, of course, in the press, but yeah, it's interesting that to a degree it's actually an educational thing, that people that just trust the AI to tell them like this is a solution or this is a vulnerability, report it without actually validating that it really is, that the AI didn't come up with random stuff. This is basically just a learning to me that as an engineer I have to found anyways. Like oftentimes, to me, always the difference between a junior engineer and a senior engineer is like a junior engineer, when it works the first time, is excited. A senior engineer, when it works the first time, is wondering why it worked the first time.
Exactly. I'm not running the right thing here. No, you're right. And it is an educational step, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we've had this in the past too, right? You could run different tools that insisted that there were problems somewhere. And if you would just take that tool's output and send it away to someone, they would not appreciate that either, because if you don't understand the tool or the output or whatever you're claiming, maybe it's not correct. Maybe it's, so yeah. This is a step in the education of everyone.
Yeah. And never forget it, we said it both here, AI keeps lying to you. Always validate what it puts out, then you're actually on a winning path.
Yeah, it certainly does keep lying. I mean, there are ways you can do to minimize it or sort of reduce it and try to avoid it, but it will still do that occasionally. So you need to verify that what it said is actually true.
Well, thanks very much, Daniel. This was lovely. To all the people out there, if you have any questions for Daniel, you can always send them to me. I will triage them then. Don't use AI to ask the questions, but personal questions we can always do something about. Thanks again, Daniel. Any last words for the people out there?
It just struck me that one of the questions when you sort of teased that you were going to talk to me, people asked how you recognize AI talk in these issues. And you recognize AI talk mostly because it's too long and it's too perfect and it's bullet points and apologizing in ways that humans really never do like that. You know, if you get a really long response, perfect English, apologizing, then you know that's probably not a human that wrote it.
And if it's a European project, then you know that there's no apologizing normally. There's just demands and like information, and it's not rudeness. It's just we want to make it faster.
Right, but the combination of all that's just only AIs do that. And then of course the selection of bullet points, 3 bullet points, another paragraph, 3 bullet points, another paragraph. That's no one does that except and the AIs do it all the time.
Good to know. Sadly enough, the AIs are listening too, so they're probably going to do 4 bullet points now. Or
yes, and everything changes over time. So whatever was true a while ago, it's not going to be true later. So things develop. So yeah, but that's at least the case right now.
Cool. Well, thanks, Daniel. Hope you have a lovely night, and yeah, we'll see. This is going out on Friday in the newsletter, and yeah, hopefully you find another place to make some money with bug bounties. But yeah, it's a good opportunity to learn from what AI tells you is a security problem might not be a security problem because it's super outdated. That's why LLMs are trained on really old data. That's the other issue with it. See you soon. Bye, Daniel.
Bye.
Yeah.